Hey guys, Stephen Bogren here from Pro Physique. Today I'm going to talk about some peak week things. So what's up guys? Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Digging the threads? Digging them, right? Yeah. Thank you, Chrissy, for helping to make this happen. Thank you guys for all of my clients and friends who decided to do pre-orders. Sorry guys, I don't have any extras. And this is, of course, the only blue one because I have to be special. But it's pretty weird to think that people want shit to do with you that they can wear around to rep you. So for all you guys who made those orders, I do appreciate it, guys. It's very humbling to think that you guys want to be associated with me and you are proud of it. So for me, but enough about my threads. Enough about my threads. Enough about my own bullshit. Let's talk about the thing at hand. It's Saturday. Saturday's fucking show day, right? So it makes sense to talk about them peeking tangs. Them peeking tangs. So let's talk about some peak week things and peak week strategies that I like to incorporate and use to make sure that people are looking their best. So where does peaking start? Where does peaking start? It starts at being lean enough. So the expectation of conditioning has only gone up, right? Especially for bikini, right? You used to be able to come in with less conditioning. That no longer is the case. You have to be lean. You have to be lean, being fucking shredded if you want to be at that peak level of conditioning for the NPC bikini division now, right? Now, what most people are going to say, well, you can be too lean. I don't necessarily, yes, you can be too lean. But your posing is going to determine what makes you look too lean or not, right? Are we really rocking the hamstrings to bring out the hamstring separation? Are we flexing more? Are we pumping up too much? Those are all things that are gonna make a difference on show day, right? So, first and foremost, nail your conditioning. If your conditioning is there, it's gonna be really hard to fuck things up. And it's going to make it much easier for you to be successful. The peaking process becomes very, very simple if you are lean enough, right? There's a couple of different ways to peak, but my favorite right now is just, working carbs up day by day, right? So we start pretty minimally, we start conservatively, kind of where we've been dieting on our carbs, and then each day I'm just adding carbohydrates in as we go. So we're filling out more and more and more as we go. Now again, if you're lean enough, it's hard to overdo this. You have to really try a lot of the times, at least with carbohydrates, right? The easier things to kind of mess up are your water and your sodium. And so those I like to keep pretty close to baseline numbers. I may drop one and bring up the other very, very minimalistically, maybe 10% or so at most, depending on the day or as we go, but we need both water and sodium to store glycogen, right? Remember, carbs are stored with water in the muscles. So if we're not drinking water when we're carbing up, we're not going to store anything in the muscles, right? We're not giving the body what it needs to do so. So I don't cut water. I don't cut sodium. If you understand the human physiology, you understand that homeostasis, the balance between intra to extracellular water ratios is not really going to change. You have more inside the cell anyways. What you end up doing is dehydrating and looking flat. Now, if you're not lean enough, you might feel like you look better if you dehydrate. Sure, absolutely. But again, our number one goal was to be lean enough in the first place, okay? You do have some other options. You can front load carbs, which means you have your higher carb days up front and then lower carb days going into the show. That one can be good. I use that typically for keto. I'm gonna have people loading carbs a couple days out, right? And then it's just about keeping them full going into the show because they're going to be much more carb sensitive, right? You can backload, which means that you're going to be doing a lot of carbs like the day before the show and the day before that, right? Which means you have lower carb days up front still, and your highest carb days are going to be right before going into the show. This one I'm a little bit less comfortable with for most of my athletes, simply because of the fact if you don't get it right, you don't get it right. I think it's a little bit easier to manage for me, in my experience, for me to manage carbs day to day. If we feel like we're being a little bit flat or we're not quite aggressive enough, I can increase carbs daily with my clients, because I'm going to have them checking in with pictures and their weights. I'm going to be looking at them daily during peak week. And so those are some of the peaking strategies, like in a very, superficial way that we can utilize. But beyond our peaking strategies, some of the things that I think we need to really talk about for peak week are some of those unseen things that we maybe don't think about or necessarily specifically make a priority all the time. So first and foremost, sleep. If you're not sleeping well, you're not recovering well. So for me, I'm trying to make recovery a priority during peak week anyways. Cardio is coming down, carbohydrates are coming up. So most of my clients are going to be feeling really good during peak week anyways. But if you're getting poor quality sleep, it's very easy not to look your best. So making sure that during peak week, and really at any point in time in the process, during a dieting process, during a reversing process, sleep is super important, right? It's very, very important that we're making sure that we're making time for good quality, restful sleep. But peak week particularly, and it's easy to have nerves get to you and some other things. So making sure that we're doing things to make sure that we're prioritizing sleep, getting to bed early enough, giving ourselves plenty of time to get enough sleep, right? I say 6 hours a night is a bare minimum for what I want everybody to be getting. And then making sure that our sleep is not only enough in time, but restful as well. So sometimes certain things can help us get to sleep, but they will actually disrupt our quality of sleep. Like when you get blackout drunk, right? Get some drinkies in. Don't be drinking during peak week, for the love of fucking God. But, example, it then interrupts your quality of sleep. You're not getting good quality of sleep, right? So other things are the same way. So making sure that you're utilizing any kind of intervention tool that's not going to, it might help you get to sleep, but make sure it's not going to interrupt the quality of sleep, right? And then keeping water and sodium pretty much stable. The one thing I find that people really like to manipulate or try and manipulate is water and sodium. If you looked great going in, we probably don't need to make big fluctuations or changes to those, right? And for me, what I've seen is they're the easiest thing to mess up, to spill over. We get a little bit too much sodium, we go a little bit too far overboard. It's easy to see those lines sort of starting to disappear and stuff. Now we're in a kind of a mad dash to try and get things back in order and tighten back up. Which, yes, it can happen, but those are the big culprits of what I see, that we're not looking really our best on show day. So the other big one that I think a lot of people suffer from is stress. Nothing is worse than a big cortisol dump day of the show, right going into when you should be looking your best, right? So making sure that you're managing your stress as best possible, whether that's yoga, diaphragmatic breathing, meditation, cortisol blockers, maybe something like Core Hard. All those things can help to manage cortisol response. It's very indicative, all your numbers were on, you kept a lot of things stable and steady, you were kind of stressed out and freaking out, and you're and then everything just goes very indicative of a cortisol dump, right? So we want to make sure that we're also managing the stress response that we see with the added stress of competition, right? Sleep is a big part of that, yeah, fuck yeah, for sure. But we want to make sure that we're looking at everything, as a whole, and addressing each and every one of the things. So the big things that everybody wants to look at, carbs. Obviously, a lot of people like to talk carbs. If you're lean enough, it's really hard to overdo it with carbs. The easier things to do that people like to talk about and deal with is water and sodium. Typically, if you keep those pretty normal, you should have looked good the week before. During the week of peak week, you only should be getting better, getting back to normal, right? But the things that a lot of people like to fail to focus on, sleep and stress, are definitely big things that can catch up to you and get you as well. So make sure that you plan ahead, make sure that you have things packed ahead, that you know what to expect. Make sure that you're keeping yourself in a good mindset and a good place mentally as well when you're getting ready to compete, and that's how you're going to look your best. So just a couple of peek and tangs on this Saturday for you for us to discuss. But I'll leave it there because I got shit to do, and I will talk to you guys soon.